Steven here at Bland Designs, and today I thought I would play with my art foamies. I got these a week or so ago, and I've seen them advertised on CHA videos on YouTube, CHA 2016, and I thought they looked really interesting for doing mixed media. And so I started working with them this morning, and I stopped because I wanted to start the video up because I am having the best time with these, and I'm just loving these. So I thought, rather than go through the whole process of what I'm doing and then come back and make a video about it, I'll make the video as I'm doing this. So this is a little play video here today. Now, what are art foamies? Art foamies are basically foam stamps. It's a very dense rubber foam. And it's a company that is Canadian, which is a plus right there since I am Canadian. They're out in BC, I believe. And you can go to their website and order these from them if you can't find them in your local store. And the website on here is www.artfoamies, ARTFOAMIES.com. And they have videos on there showing you how to use them, but you can also do a search on YouTube for videos. Now that's what I've done. Before I even opened up the packages of these, I went to several different videos on YouTube and saw how they were using them, and that's what I'm going to be doing today and maybe a little bit more. Now, Julie Fay Fan Balzer, you've probably heard that name. She's big in the art community. She makes her own stencils and things. She has designed some of these stamps for art foamies for the company, and they've got a little sticker on them so you know that they're her designs. She's into mixed media, she's into art journaling and all kinds of things, and she uses these especially with art journaling, and that's why I bought them, for art journaling. But I am finding they're so much more than just that. Now, before I explain to you what these are and how to use them, I'm just going to show you some prints that I made this morning on deli paper. So there's one. There's another, and then this is a little different design here. And these are all done stamped in acrylic paint. And so I'm going to show you how to do this. Now I'm going to build on these because my intent is, after I've made several of these and they're dry and I'm finished with them, I'm going to save them for future art journaling projects. I might rip them up, I might take pieces out, I don't know. So we're going to see what happens. So I'll just put those over to one side, and I will be stopping and starting this video at different points because we don't want to watch wet paint dry and all that kind of thing. But right now I'm just going to show you what I've already bought. I bought quite a few. I was up at Karen Ellis's The Art House Studio a couple of weeks ago, and she had those in stock, and so I bought pretty much everything she had. So I have this very large one of a sort of a leafy floral kind of pattern. That's a Balzer design one. This one of a feather, I thought that would be very good. This huge one, which is really intended to go on material. These will work on fabric if you use fabric paints. On paper they'll work, whatever, it just depends on the paint or the ink that you're using. And it's a Balzer design as well. I got a bird as well. I thought that would be great in art journal pages. And I got these two designs. This one for backgrounds, and this sort of floral one. And these are the two that I just showed you that I used on the deli paper. Off to the side here, you're going to see I have some paints laid out. They're just cheap acrylic paints. I've got a scraper, and I'll show you what I use that for in a moment. And I've got a piece of palette paper, which actually I'm using for stamping off. Because I think when I'm done with this, I'm going to hang on to this as well. It could become something too. Even during this process, I'm also hanging on to my baby wipes that I use for wiping these off because I let these dry. I know other people do this. I've never really done it. They keep the old paper towels or the baby wipes that are stained with color, and they do things with them. So I'm just got them off the side drying, and yeah, waste not, want not, I guess. Okay, let me clean these off for just a second. I'm going to leave the bird because I'm going to work with him next. And I'm going to show you what I did. Now this is how Julie Fay Fan, boy that's a mouthful for a name, Julie Fay Fan Balzer, how she uses them. She gets, when you get them, you get the rubber stamp and you get something called a stamp buddy. The stamp buddy is actually the pad that you're going to place your paint on first. Rather than taking this and dipping it directly into the paint, because it's a foam, a very dense foam, you could probably get too much paint on it. You don't need a lot. So this helps you distribute the paint. Now what she does, and you can see here I did it, she took a StazOn ink pad, inked up her foam stamp before she even used it, and stamped an impression on to this. The reason being is this now becomes a guide to where she puts her paint, because you put your paint onto these directly. I did the same with this one. Now these are stained, but there's nothing on them. They're coming up clean. Reason being they're stained is from the acrylic paint. But after you're done, and this is a very important step, you need to take the paint off your off your foam stamp. Now you can run it under a tap, but do not leave it. It says in the instructions soaking in water. Julie Faye Fan Bolzer, I will get that name right eventually, she just uses a baby wipe and cleans it all out, and I found that that's probably the easiest way. With this, which is like a sponge, just run it under a tap and squeeze all the paint out of it, and then just dry it by pressing it through a couple of sheets of paper towels, and then let it air dry. Now all of these stamp buddies are a different size. They all match the size of the stamp itself. Okay, they recommend that if you still have paint left on it, then you can put it in an airtight sealed bag, like a Ziploc bag or something like that, and pull it out next time to use it. I think that'd be a little messy. So what I'm going to do is I've just rinsed them off. I'm going to let them air dry, and then I think I'm going to store them all in one of those great big plastic boxes, and I'll label it Art Foamies. So I've used these two already, as you can see. So I'm just going to take those and set them aside. And I'm going to get this one out, and I'm going to show you the process here. Now they do come with instructions, and the instructions are very helpful because it shows you what's recommended, and it gives you basic cleanup and how to use it. But I would recommend that you also check out videos on YouTube for how people are using these for ideas. So there's the stamp buddy and the foam stamp itself. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to ink this up with StazOn ink. You're using StazOn because StazOn ink will not wash off. It's permanent, and that's what you want. This is just giving you a basic outline so you know where to lay down your paint. Now you can do these all in a solid color. I've been doing them in multiple colors, but I'll show you how this works. So I'm getting this fairly inky. Okay, that should be good. And then I'm just taking it and lining it up, and then you just press down. You don't have to press down too hard, but it should be even pressure all the way around it. If you don't get a perfect impression on the stamp buddy, that's okay. There we go. I got a pretty good impression there. Now, believe it or not, this is the first thing I discovered. I'm just going to move my palette paper over here. There's still a lot of StazOn on this. So I'm just stamping it off, but look at that. Look how much ink is still on this. Like, it really holds quite a bit. And this is the same with other inks as well. It's not just the StazOn that's doing this. Look, I'm still getting an awful lot on here. So I'm just going to set that aside for a second. So I have this impression on here, and it's still a little wet, but that's okay. In fact, what you can do, at least I think you can probably do this, I'm making this up as I go along, people, okay? So you're going to see what happens as it happens to me. I'm just blotting this a little bit because I don't think it'll affect anything, but just in case. Yeah, that came off pretty good. Okay, throw that over on the side. Still got a fair amount on here. I'm just going to... StazOn usually dries pretty fast, but on these it doesn't seem to be. But that's okay, because I did this on the other one, and I didn't even blot it, and it didn't affect the paint at all. But I'm going to blot this one. Okay, so I'm going to get myself a sheet of deli paper. And I'm using the glossy side of the deli paper. I don't think it really matters, but I saw something, I didn't realize there were two sides to deli paper. And then I saw a YouTube video and someone there was talking about using the glossy side as opposed to the not so glossy side. I don't know. I don't know if it makes any difference. I haven't found any difference, but I'm doing that anyways. All right, so you get your stamp buddy out. And I'm going to use 3 colors of paint for this, so it's 3 shades of green. And I'm just going to kind of do a gradient effect. So I'm dividing my image in thirds. You can do it all in one solid color, you can do it in 2 colors, you can do this any way you want. And I'm just going to lay down a bead of ink across here, maybe a little bit more. It looks like it's taking a lot of ink, but you're going to see I only have to ink. It's acrylic paint. You only have to put this on once for a session, really. And then I'm using a scraper. Could use a paintbrush, but just using a scraper, and I'm covering that first upper third of my bird. I need a little bit more paint. It soaks it right in. Okay. Now I'm going to use, I'll use this color next. And I'm kind of letting the colors overlap a little bit. That was that one, and then I'll use this green. I need a little bit more in this spot. I'm just trying to get coverage over that whole stamped image. A little bit of overlap. Okay, so I've got those on there. Now I'm going to take my foam stamp, and I can basically sort of still see the outline. You probably can't on camera, but I can see it here. And it doesn't really matter. I don't have to match it up exactly. It's just a guide so I can get color on this. And I'm just pressing it in, and I'm not pressing it really hard, but fairly, even. Take it off. Let's stamp. Again, just even pressure. Whoa, look at that. That is fantastic. Now, I'm not going to re-ink it. This time I'm just going to do another one and see how much I can get. There, a little fainter, but okay. And maybe let's do one more down here. See what a 3rd generation stamp looks like. Yeah, a little fainter, but that's okay. Alright, so I'm going to ink it up again. Start down here this time. Oops, I think I kind of moved my hand a bit, so I think I kind of blurred it there, but I'm not going to worry about that. This is why you don't want to press it, I guess, too hard on some of the skinny pieces. They might shift on you. This is looking good. Now, I've got enough paint on that stamp buddy that I can do another sheet, so let me get another sheet. be more random on this one. There, I did it again. I moved it a little bit, but I mean, since this is going to possibly be torn up, I'm not really worried about that. See if I can stamp off a little bit. Go down to my sheet and getting out a shot here. So. Okay, I'm going to leave that. Now I'm going to show you cleanup process. So let me grab a baby wipe. And then all I've been doing is I'm just basically wiping the paint off. Now you don't want the paint to dry on this, they tell you, because it gets into if it gets into the little grooves and things, then it'll ruin the stamp. Well, it'll be too hard. It won't come off then, and you won't get a good impression. As I said, you can take this and run it under the tap as well, and take a soft bristle toothbrush or soft bristle brush, and just clean out all the grooves. But I'm finding that this seems to be working fine. Now I am being fairly thorough. Cost-wise, these aren't bad. They ranged in price from about $8.99 up to about $15.99, depending on the size. And I'm definitely going to go online and order some more, because I'm really liking these. Okay, so I've got him pretty much cleaned up. Snap him off on here to dry him. I can blot a little bit with paper towel, so he can air dry. So I'm going to shut off the video for a second, because I'm going to go to my sink and I'm going to wash this out, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back. I've ran this under the tap and I squeezed it out. It's a big sponge basically, and I squeezed the paint out of it, and once the water ran clear, I knew I had all the paint out. Yes, it looks like there's going to be some staining, but that's not going to give me any problems because I can put any color on that, and since really it's just the staining, the paint is out of it, so it should work fine. And you can see, because I use StazOn, that the impression that I made initially is still on the pad. This was Julie Boy, do I have trouble with her name. Julie Fan Bolzer's tip for doing this, and I think it works really well. On the website for the Art Foamies, they show actually putting your paint on here wherever you want it, and then sort of going like this, dabbing different parts. But I think this method worked a little better. And as I said, you don't have to do it in a gradient. It can be any color you want. Okay, let's put him aside to dry. And now I'm going to work with this big stamp. So let's get it out. Okay, so this one is huge. Now it's got some little knockout pieces here. Now I suppose you could keep those and maybe do something with them. Oh, maybe I will. I'll just keep those over to the side for now. Okay, so this one's a big leaf stamp. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to ink it up. I'll put it this way, and there. Now that one came out a little lighter than the one I made last time, but it doesn't really matter. I can see where the paint is going to go. Now, just for the sake of variety, I'm just wiping this off. It's got stays on, so stays on doesn't really wipe off, but just to get it there. Okay. So for this one, I think I'll use different shades of blue, and I think I'll go this way, the gradients. So let's start with a light blue. Again, I'm going to do it in about thirds. Now this is going to take more paint, I think. Oops. And my scraper. You could use an old credit card for this as well. You might be wondering why I have palette paper sitting over here. Well, originally I thought I'd put the paint on the palette paper, and as you can see, that's not really what I'm doing. This one's got a weird texture to it. I hope there's not something wrong with this. These are relatively inexpensive paints that I'm using. I guess it's okay. Just make sure it kind of blended in. And as I said before, I'm letting my colors overlap. You know, I wonder if there's something wrong with that too. It's got a funny smell to it too. Oh well, we'll see. It's just paint. It does absorb into the sponge part really fast. So yes, you're going to use a fair amount of paint, but you see how much coverage you get. So I guess that's the trade-off. I don't know. I know a lot of people are very economically minded about their supplies. I don't tend to be. I figure when I run out, I'll buy more. Not that I'm rich. It's just my attitude towards it. Okay, I'm just cleaning that off of there. Alrighty, let's get a piece of deli paper. Okay. Ooh, that's kind of cool. But I didn't get a really solid. I don't know if I didn't press it down the paint enough. Actually, that's that color that I thought came out kind of funny too, so I don't know. But this is going to be for mixed media, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not getting as perfect an image on this large one as I got on the smaller ones, but I think that may just have to do with how much paint I've actually put on the stamp buddy. But you know, I'm not worried. At least I'm kind of liking this stamp though. And waste not, want not. Let's put one down along the, let's move this down a bit. I think I smeared it down here a little bit, but that's okay. Okay. I'm liking that. That has potential. Okay, I'm going to take that off. Set it over here on the side to dry. Now, just here on this piece of palette paper that I've got, I'm going to try these little pieces and see what happens. Oh, don't throw these away. These are cool. Look at that. Those were just the little cutout pieces. Oh, this is good. Geez, I'm actually having more fun with these than with the big stamp. Okay, these are a must keep. Look how much paint I'm still getting off of this. Okay, I can't stop myself. Actually, let's move this over to one side. Let's go back. Let's take one of these and let's just add a few little spots on this. This is addictive. Once you get going, you can't stop. Okay, I have to stop. Stop. Alrighty. So we're going to save those little pieces. Okay. So I still have 2 more stamps to try out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go clean up this. I'm going to try the other 2 stamps, and I'll show you the end result of that. And then we're going to try some layering. Okay, so here are the last couple of stamps that I used, and I did pretty much the same process as I did with the other stamps, except on the feather one, first thing I did was I tried it in one solid color so you can see the yellow ones. And then I added to part of it the red, and I added a little bit more yellow near the bottom, just smeared them together so I got sort of a gradient into orange, and just applied this all over, and I used those little dropout pieces again to create the triangles, which these in themselves are a lot of fun. So that's that one. And then on this one, instead of doing so much a gradient, I used 3 different colors and I applied them to the various leaves and just sort of smoothed them over, and I wasn't that careful with it. I let them run into each other and I got this effect. So this has been a lot of fun. And by the way, here's my piece of palette paper that I wasn't really using for paint. I've been using it now for stamping off, and this in itself is going to become something, I'm sure. Okay, now I've been showing you how to use these with acrylic paints, and I think that was what they were chiefly designed for. But my experience with putting stays on to stamp the image onto the Stamp Buddy seemed to work pretty well. So I have some more stays on over here, just slightly off camera. Stays on comes in different colors, by the way, if you didn't know that, and you can get them in large pads or small pads. So I bought a set of about 10 of these different colors. And what I'm going to use those as the stamp, as my stamp pad, and I'm going to use the Foamies just like a regular stamp. Now the reason I'm using Stays On is because this is a Deli paper with the shiny side, so if I use a non-permanent ink, when I put these in my art journal, if I rip them up and I use any other liquidy kinds of products, they're going to run. Acrylic paint does not run once it's dry, so I don't have to worry about that. But with the inks, I do worry about that, so I'm going to use Stays On. And I'm going to grab this one, right now a little texture one, and I don't know what color I should use. I use greens and browns, so maybe I'll use, this is called St. Valentine's, so probably a red. And I'm just going to dab it on just like you would on any kind of stamp pad, and we'll see what we get. So here I'm not being particular about where it's going. Actually, I'm getting good coverage with this. Okay, that's kind of fun. So this is stays on, so I don't think I need to worry about trying to wipe it off. Maybe I'll just stamp off a little bit more over here on my palette paper. It's getting kind of covered. Okay, so I've got that, and let's see. Let's go back to this one that I used before, and let's see what another. Let's try a different shade of green. This is called Cactus Green. Let's see what that's like. Some of these I haven't even used yet, and I've had them for quite a while. But if you know me, if one is good, the whole set is great, is my philosophy. So, ooh, that's kind of pretty. Let's do some stamping off. When I get these done, I may not want to cut them up and use in my journal pages. I may just want to frame them. So I'm getting some ghosting here, and that's fine. Snap off what's left over here. Okay, well that's pretty neat. Alright, I'm going to leave that one for a moment. And let's take the feathers in reds. So let's use this one again, and let's do blue. And as I said, you could use any ink pads for this. It depends on what you're going to do with this afterwards. Okay. So you get the idea here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other stamps on some of the other prints, and I'll show you at the end. Okay, so I have finished putting on more layers here, and this time I used the Stays On ink, so I'll show you the end product. So you can see here, this was my original. The flowers were in the acrylic. The little circles, those are in Stays On ink. On this one, the flowers are in acrylic, but the bird is in Stays On ink. The flowers here are in Stays On. The leaves are in Stays On. And the feathers are in Stays On here as well. And you'll notice that in some parts I don't have a complete feather. I just have a tip of it. I took my stamp and bent it up. Let me show you what I mean. I only took part of the stamp and I just kind of touched it just here and there, that part of it, so you can do partial stamping with them too, and that works really well. And these are so flexible that that's really easy to do. In this one, the leaves in blues and purples are acrylic ink, but then I use sort of a light colored browny sort of orange in the Stays On using the other leaf shape. This one, I use the what did I use on this one? I forgot what I used. The acrylic paint is the bird. The birds are in the acrylic paint, and the leaf shape is in the Stays On. And I tried to variegate the Stays On that one. And in this one, the flowers are just in one color of Stays On. And the same with this. Actually, I put two layers on this one. I used the circles. It's the one I started with. I showed you before. And I used the flower as well. So I know it works well with ink pads as well as acrylic paint. My next test is to see what we're going to get if I use spray inks. So I'm going to use Delusions. I'm using Delusions because I like the colors are very bold on these. Now, problem with Delusions is these are water soluble, so they will be reactivated if I get them wet. But to get around that problem, if I use them on a mixed media page, I'll just have to spray it with workable fixative before I put another layer down, and that'll solve that problem. So to apply the ink, I think I'm going to use this. I'm going to do I think the same thing on each one. No, I'm not. Actually, I'm going to use my little cutout pieces here. that came out of the other. And I think I'll use this as my stamp pad. So I'm just going to add some color to this. Don't get quite as sharp an image, but that's okay. So I'm just filling in a few of the white spaces on that. And I'm going to call that piece done. Now, put that aside. Take this one, and I'm going to change my color. I'm going to spray this with yellow. I'm not going to clean this up. It should give me green. And that's exactly what it's given me. Now it is sort of beating up. That's okay. That's another effect. Now it's also beating up because I'm using the shiny side of the deli paper, and that's probably acting as a little bit of a resist. This one I've already done enough triangles, I think we'll leave that one. Let's see if I find one here. Maybe just throw red in here. Oops. Let's try this one. Trying to overlap my shapes too here. Okay, enough of that. I think this one needs a bit. Ooh, that's pretty wet. So let's just carry on with the color I have on here. Now I'm kind of pushing hard on this to purposely make it bleed. Give it a little bit of texture. Okay, enough of that. And do I add a little to this? Yeah, I think I do. Okay, do I dare mix another color in this? Let's give it a shot of green. I don't know, this maybe, I'm getting probably kind of muddy here. In fact, I know I'm getting kind of muddy, but let's try it and see what happens. Yeah, this is giving me sort of a brown, but actually kind of goes with this, so something a little different. But now I know this pad has got too many colors on it, so if I put any more on it, it's going to come out really dark and brown, and I don't want that. Okay, that's all I'm going to do with that. And I'm just going to leave the rest. I'll just leave the rest as they are. So let's just do a quickie review here. So these are called art foamies, and they work very well with acrylic paint, as you can tell, and you can do a gradient effect or a solid color, and you get a lot of mileage out of your acrylic paint with that. Then you can also use them with regular stamp pads, and again, you can do a gradient, you can do isolated parts of it in different colors, whatever you like. And it'll also work with the spray inks too. So it works with all those mediums very, very well. It says on the package it's good on paper, it's good on all surfaces basically. It just depends on the kind of paint or medium that you're using. So you can do this on material as well. So that's great. Clean up, wipe them down with a baby wipe or put them under the tap. Make sure you wash out the inks in your stamp buddy so they won't go hard. And yeah, so overall I give this product a 10 out of 10. I really like it, and I think it's going to do amazing things in my art journals. And I can also see applications for this in card making and in scrapbooking. So it's a product that's relatively inexpensive. As I said, they range in price, the ones that I bought, from about $8.99 to about $14.99, so that's not bad. And there's a lot of them to choose from. So I think I'm going to go online. I'm going to order a few more of these. So anyways, if you have any comments, you can leave them below. And I hope this turns you on to a new and very nice tool. And above all, it's Canadian too. Woo! Okay, until next time, bye-bye.